If you're a nonfiction author, especially if you're a coach, consultant, speaker, or thought leader, you've probably asked yourself at some point, what comes first, the brand or the book? Over the past 6 months, I've thought about this question a lot because as an author, you're most likely writing your book on the side and adding it to what you're already doing. And it's a long-term endeavor. But you've learned, either through my podcast, through your own research, or something else, that you need to be able to sell the book, no matter your publishing path. And in order to do that, you need a brand and a platform. And writing a book is a lot of work, and building your brand is a lot of work. So what should you do first? In this episode of Your Path to Book Publishing, I want to slow down and pause on this question so that we can really go in and think about what you want to accomplish in the long term and how that influences the answer that you have to that question for yourself and for your journey. And later in the episode, we'll hit on exactly what keeps capable authors from getting started with either their book or their brand. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Over the past decade, as I've worked with authors, the first way I would probably have answered this question is start with the book, get your content out there, get something out there that you can use. And that's not the wrong answer, but things have changed a lot in the past decade. I've gone back and forth on that, or you need to start with your brand, your platform, especially if you're going to traditionally publish your book because you want to have proof of concept, which isn't the wrong answer either. So you might be thinking, well, Zach, well, what is it? Tell me what the answer is. Well, if an aspiring author asked me today on where they should focus on their author brand or on getting their book written and published, I want to give a more nuanced answer. And maybe that's not the answer you want to hear right now, but we'll get to it by the end. And it's not because the question you're asking and I'm asking is wrong, but because what usually sits underneath that question is what matters more. What I see more often than knowing which publishing path to go down is that it's hesitation. To expand on that, here's what I've noticed with nonfiction authors over time. Authors don't get stuck because they choose the wrong starting point. They get stuck because they think they need to figure things out before they begin. Now, I'm all for knowing what direction you want to go, but until you start, you're not going to know if that direction is necessarily going to be the best step for you to take. And this relates directly back to your brand. You want your brand to be clear. You want your voice to sound confident. Authors feel they want their positioning to feel settled and to be directed directly at the right audience for their book and their other services. And really because of that paralysis, potentially, nothing happens. There's no steps taken and you don't move forward. The problem really is coming down to, it isn't brand versus book, it's the waiting that's getting in the way. That's what's causing the friction. And in practice, and what I'm starting to see is that it's not whether the book or the brand is first, it's that they need to start happening simultaneously. You're using your content that you're working on right now for your book to start building your brand. They grow together, and you want to give space for them to grow together. They may not perfectly grow together. It may not be even at times, but it's intentional. And your author brand, as you're going down the path of being an author, isn't going to be something that's going to be perfect from the start. It's going to have shifts, pivots. You're going to realize things you do like, you don't like, where you want to focus, and that will impact the voice and impression and interpretation of your brand and what you stand for as an author. Even though we're not talking about it, is going to directly impact how you market your book and connect with your audience through your brand and your book. So getting clarity on your brand, on your book, doesn't come before the action. It becomes because of the action that you are taking. Now, I do want to address a common misunderstanding that I believe that many authors misunderstand about their voice. A lot of authors assume that they'll eventually find their voice, but I don't believe that's really how it works. You build your voice by using it. You build it by writing consistently every day, talking about your ideas through your writing, with others, through networking events, through your friends and family and colleagues, and your audience that would be interested in what you're producing. And then you sit back and you see how people respond. Just like with any book, your first draft isn't going to be your final draft. And the first brand message that you come up with isn't going to be the final brand message or positioning that you come up with. Early drafts get changed. Early ideas become more polished and sharpened. And the early language that you may have had or thought was a good idea changes. And it's not a failure. Absolutely not. It's a way that you're learning and growing and shaping how you want others to perceive and think of you with your brand and your books growing together. And I would bet that every strong author brand, especially in the nonfiction space that you see today, has gone through something similar, that their brand from the beginning has shifted from where their brand is now and what they represent. And that could be a product of how they've grown, the feedback they've received, knowing what resonates with their audience, and also knowing where they want to focus so that they can feel continually engaged and passionate about what they're doing and providing and putting out into the world. So let's jump into some more practicality of all this. So as you're taking action, you'll start putting things out there. And the temptation is you're going to want to put it out in as many different channels as possible. I would caution against that because it gets overwhelming because every channel is a little bit different. Every social media platform, every Substack-based platform, every email platform or message that you're going to put out is going to be a little bit different in the way that content medium is going out, but as well as the people who engage with those types of content or mediums. So figure out which one you want to focus on first. Make your best guess, do some research on which one your audience will most likely be on, and that will most likely take action in the way that you hope that they do. And you may start on one platform, find it doesn't work, and then you may switch. But the key is I recommend you focus on one single platform to start, and then as you grow, you can expand and reach a wider audience as your brand becomes more clear and tight. And I think the advantage of one platform is you get to know that platform, and that'll give you the opportunity to connect and get to know kind of the culture of that platform. So you may be able to use it as a place to go where you can think out loud or try new ideas and brainstorm and see what the reaction is and find what is landing well and maybe what falls flat, all for your learning. So for many nonfiction authors, I would venture to guess that's going to be a lot on LinkedIn because that's where a lot of the decision makers are for consulting, speaking, and is meant to be a more business professional related platform. And for others, it might be more of a professional blog or professional posting, or you may, depending on what you do and your focus, you might go to another social platform or another platform outside of that. Right now, the goal isn't necessarily growing your platform. It's about getting feedback on what content is going to resonate the most with your audience so that you can know what content you need to produce for your brand and also your book that's in line with your expertise. Don't shift and be a chameleon just because something worked for someone else. If it's not you, figure out what is you and what is in your voice that you can post and get that feedback on. And when writing your book and your brand and your visibility grow, they'll start working together. One of the most exciting things about writing your book is you're going to have tens of thousands of words that you can repurpose and use to test out in your blog posts. in your posts, in your newsletters, whatever way you're going out there, in your videos. And it's a way to test what's resonating. And that feedback is going to make your book even better. And no matter what publishing path you're going down, this is true whether you're self-publishing, hybrid publishing, or traditionally publishing. And I see it impacting all three for the positive because it's about your book and your content and your brand. And it's going to help you go where you want to and figure out who it is that you can best connect with. So to start circling this back around, instead of asking, does the book or brand come first, which we've obviously hit on a bit, maybe the better question to ask is, what is one small, repeatable action I can take each day that either grows the book or the brand or both at the same time? And in a sense, you're asking, what can I do to move forward in my author journey? That question creates momentum. And that momentum is what will actually carry you through each phase of the author journey and the publishing and marketing process. To bring it back around and hit on what I talked about at the beginning of the episode of what I promised, of that one thing that stops most authors from getting started. And it's that belief that your clarity will create confidence. In reality, confidence comes from movement. And one thing that's an advantage with all the information that's going out today is that you can practice. If something falls flat, no one's probably going to remember it, but they will remember if there was a meaningful interaction that you had or some meaningful piece of content, a story that you shared that starts to get that engagement that you're looking for. But that only happens if you begin. Start the book. Start thinking about your brand and building out your brand. Let them grow together. Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Path to Book Publishing. I'm excited for this upcoming year. We have a lot of different pieces of content, a lot of new offerings, and a lot of new ways to help you progress and grow in your author journey and get where you want to go. So stay tuned for next week's episode. And there might be some episodes coming up where we have some special guests talking about their journey and working with Juxtabook on what they wanted to accomplish with their books and brand and marketing. So go out there, keep writing, keep building your brand, keep marketing, and keep heading the direction where you will have the greatest impact. Thank you for listening.